You and your players are gathered around the table to play a game of Vampire the Masquerade, or perhaps another RPG. You have your character sheets ready, their dice are ready to roll, and you are ready to guide them through conflicts, both social, emotional, and sometimes physical. Now let's assume for a moment that you are the type of storyteller, like me, that uses theater of the mind, which is to say, we describe through narration how players and characters in your game move through the action in a conflict scene, instead of using a battle map and miniatures. As you begin to describe your conflict, you run into a problem that we've all had. Players aren't always the most attentive. They may misunderstand the position of characters in a scene, or you may misunderstand the action that they want to take. What we're looking at today is using a tool from another game to help us track the action of our conflict, not with precise miniature movement, but broad abstractions, to give our players something visual to focus on in the game, while not distracting from our theater of mind narration. Let's not waste any more time. I'm Zombie, and you're watching 3 Dots and Resources. And here we are. Today, we'll be using Tabletop Simulator. I prepared a very basic environment so that you can see precisely what I'm talking about with this tool. Now, what we need to get started is some type of object to represent an area and some tokens to represent characters in the scene. Now, the system I'm going to show you, I think I originally discovered from the game Fate Core. It's a very generic RPG that could be applied to any setting. The great thing about Fate, it could be mechs fighting on a far distant sci-fi planet, or it can be cowboys in a shootout against bandits. One of the things that Fate does well is use abstractions instead of precise information. Now, I don't remember precisely if this is exactly the way that Fate presents it, but this is something that I've taken into other RPG games successfully. So what we're going to do is create multiple fields of our battlefield, and we'll represent those with these note cards. Now, I'm going to change the information on the note cards. This one will be the back alleyway. This one will be at the bar. And this one will be the back room. Now, in the scene we're going to set up, we'll have a Malkavian character in the back room, a gangrel bartender at the bar, and a La Sombra residing in the back alley. We'll use this marker to represent a ghoul bouncer. So these note cards are abstractions of the areas they represent. There's no 5 foot by 5 foot tracking of character movement. For all intents and purposes, if a character shares the space and it makes narrative sense for them to be able to fight within melee range, they can. They can spend a movement action to move from one area to another, if it's reasonable. Also, if it's reasonable and they have some type of ranged combat, they could use that to fire without being subject to melee attack retribution. Say, for example, our Malkavian character hears a commotion in the bar and uses the frame of the door to the back room to fire his pistol at the aggressor who's trying to destroy the bar. He could, by the rules in the book, get bonuses for cover. The characters in the bar would have to transition from being in the bar to being in the back room to fight him, and he could make his ranged attacks. Meanwhile, the gangrel could fight the ghoul in melee range without any problems at all. Now, in the back alleyway, this La Sombra here would not be able to interact with either one unless it were reasonably described within the narrative. It's a pretty easy concept to utilize in your games and for your players to be able to track what's going on. Now, this gets more complicated when you start to add more important characters into a scene, but what's really nice is that it's flexible. You don't have to do a large amount of prep. If a scene that you did not expect to become a physical conflict becomes one, all you have to do is pull out your trusty note cards or whiteboard where you draw circles and write out the areas that are going to be used in your conflict. If you need a new area, you just have to grab it, and now you have a parking lot area as well. Now, one thing you can do is use markers to indicate areas that you cannot travel between without entering another scene. So perhaps this Lasombra would have to enter the back room in a turn before he could enter the bar. Or he could go from the back alleyway to the parking lot and enter the bar. You could also use markers in the same way to indicate areas that are protected by cover one way from this area, but this area does not have cover firing back into this area, like in our case where the Malkavian has cover from the door frame, but the occupants of the bar did not have cover from the Malkavian's fire. I hope you've enjoyed this video. This is a reminder that we stream on Twitch 3 times a week from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Here's a small peek at the kind of fun we get up to.
Somebody's not that great. No, I'm teasing. You're good. You're much better than I could ever be. Why are they all in their underwear?
No, I'm not hurting the horse. Ow! God! I hope this tool is helpful for you and that you would choose to like, comment, and please subscribe. I know you're tired of hearing things like that, but as always, your direct feedback helps me understand that what I'm doing here is helping you. I'll be back next week with another video. Take care, and I'll see you next time.